Hey guys, Captain C.A. Richardson here. Today on FlatsClass YouTube, we're gonna talk about how to determine the length of leader that you need for inshore fishing. It's a question that comes up often. I see it a lot in the comments on many of my tips, and it always comes up in seminars and seminar fishing schools. So I'm gonna grab some rods here, and I'll meet you over here at the boat. Be right back. This episode of FlatsClass YouTube is brought to you by Aquatraction, your go-to solution for advanced marine flooring. All right, there are a number of reasons why saltwater leaders or inshore saltwater leaders would vary. And the typical questions are, well, does it depend on the species? Does it depend on cloud cover? Does it depend on water clarity? Does it depend on I live in a pressured fishery? Does it depend on the technique that I'm fishing? All of those are relevant, honestly, every one of them. So I always bring a number of fishing setups when I go out on the water, and that's why you'll notice that on some rods I have very short leaders, and on other rods I have very long leaders, and that's because it's mostly based off technique for me. Now occasionally I do come I guess into agreement with a lot of my fellow pros. If you fish a pressured fishery, there is the need to use longer leader lengths. But in many cases, short leader lengths are better. So let me give you a few examples. Something we've talked about a million times is topwater. Topwater requires you to have a short leader, typically nothing more than 15 to 18 inches long or less. That's right. And it needs to be a heavier leader material. But when you're fishing topwater baits, you want to use a much shorter leader. That's where it comes into play. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen these rod covers, but these rod covers are fantastic from BUZBE. I love them. I can take stuff in and out of the truck. I keep them on the boat. It keeps those rods from getting all tangled up, but that's another video. So let me undo this one here and show you something a little bit different. This leader is for suspending bait. Now I don't want a long leader, but I do need a leader that gives me some invisibility because it's going to be out there in front of fish for a while. So in this case, I like to use a light piece of leader, about 3 feet. And you'll notice I've got a little blood knot there, and it moves all the way down to a step down leader where I've got about 6 or 8 inches right here. Overall leader length though is about 3 feet long to throw these suspending baits. If I have too much leader, it changes the way the bait performs. So 3 feet is about my max for these things. If I'm fishing for snook, I put that little piece of bite tippet on there. Now let me show you another one real fast. Here's something where that short leader comes back again. And again, get this rod cover off. Let's say you're fishing a reaction bait. You're power fishing a swim bait or a spoon. These leader lengths are typically for me no longer than 2 feet. I make them 2 feet, maybe 2.5 feet max, 24 to 30 inches, just so that I can change a few. But this would be my power fishing rod for my spoon. And this is something I do all the time, have that length of leader, that 2 to 2.5 foot length of leader. But you gotta think when you're fishing And those fish are chasing that bait because this is power fishing. You're swinging it and reeling it back, swinging it, reeling it back. When you're doing that, the fish that's gonna eat that thing is following the lure. So it's not a finessey technique at all. So you don't need a long leader, and you can get away with weights that are up to 30, 40 pound leader weights. You're saying, so when does CA throw the long leader? This is when, especially for me, fishing pressured fisheries, fishing cold water, where I'm gonna have to move bait slow and they get a long look at it. It's this. When I'm fishing Ned rigs, I use a very long leader. This is super light leader. It's probably 5 feet long. I mean, it starts down here and I run it all the way up to here. And I've got it with you can't see it really, but it's a modified Albright knot. But those long leaders, when I'm gonna fish very slow, very tactile, if you will, making the cast into potholes or little troughs or the moats of oyster bars, and I'm gonna let that bait sit in there and I'm gonna lift, 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 and let it drop. Lift, 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 let it drop. They're gonna get a long look at it. So I'm gonna use like 12 and 15 pound really thin leaders, and they're gonna be very long. They're easy to cast even on this because naturally those smaller leader weights offer real small knots. Now, we're not done. We're gonna talk about one more thing right after this. So the question that someone will put in the comments below, I guarantee you, is there ever a time when you don't use a leader at all? Yes, there is. And that is when I consider that my whole line is a leader. I'll give you a for instance. Many times when I fish for speckled trout, when we get into these post-cold front situations, I will fish with monofilament or fluorocarbon line, okay? The whole spool. So there's really no need to have a leader at all, because most of the time I'm using anywhere from 12 to maybe 16 pound test, and I'll just risk it with a plug that I don't need a leader. In this case, because it's still a little warm out, I have a little piece of 8 inches here of bite tippet of 30 fluorocarbon with my Mirrodine with single hooks, because I've been fishing in zones where there's been some snook. And that's the time when I can actually say, I don't need a leader. Hopefully, all those little examples or scenario possibilities will help you make wiser choices when you choose leader. And if it does, and you're catching more fish, make comments, share this information with your friends, give us that big thumbs up on all these videos. I have over 450 videos on FlatsClass YouTube that will make you a better angler. And subscribe. There's no excuse why you shouldn't be subscribing. We put 2-3 of these videos out a week. So subscribe. We'll make you, I'm telling you, a lot better angler. If you like the stuff that you're seeing here, that we use on FlatsClass YouTube and on the show, reach out to sodiumusa.com. Go there. You'll find a lot of the lures that we're using, tons of the BUZBE Tackle stuff that we're using there, and many of these rod and reel setups that I show from Shimano on a regular basis. So if you go to the Captain C.A. Richardson website, you'll see some of our custom baits, but if you need anything else, I encourage you to go to sodiumusa.com. All right, I'm actually getting ready for a charter tomorrow, so I've got to finish rigging rods, get everything back in the boat, and I'll see you on the next one.